Tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to try something. Turn off every light in your home. Every single one. Close your blinds. Cover the gap under your door. Put your phone face down. Sit in the silence. Now hold that feeling. Because what you're experiencing right now, that quiet unease crawling up your spine, that low hum of anxiety your brain can't quite explain, that is not weakness. That is not irrational. That is 300,000 years of human memory. Your ancestors didn't just fear the dark hunted them. And for nearly all of human history, every single night, without exception, this is where humanity lived. Not occasionally. Not by choice. Every single night. Swallowed whole by a darkness so complete, so absolute, that you could hold your hand an inch from your face and see absolutely nothing. No streetlights glowing amber outside your window. No phone screen to reach for. No refrigerator hum, no neighbor's porch light bleeding through the curtains. Nothing. Just the sound of your own breathing, and whatever was out there, moving in the dark, that you couldn't see. Here's what almost nobody talks about. The invention of reliable artificial light didn't happen until roughly 150 years ago. Which means that for approximately 299,850 years of human existence, every night was a battle. A negotiation between civilization and the void. And in that darkness, in those hundreds of thousands of nights, humanity built its deepest fears. Its most powerful gods. Its most enduring myths. Its most dangerous criminals. Its most desperate prayers. This is the story of darkness. And it is, in every sense, the hidden origin of who we are. Let's go back. Not a few centuries. Not a few thousand years. All the way back. Picture East Africa, roughly 300,000 years ago. The sun is setting. And the world is transforming in a way that modern humans have almost entirely forgotten. During the day, early humans were dangerous. Coordinated. Capable. They used tools, hunted in groups, communicated, planned. The daylight hours belonged to them. But the moment that sun dipped below the horizon, everything reversed. Because in the dark, humans were prey. Lions. Leopards. Hyenas. These animals didn't just tolerate the night. They owned it. Their eyes were built for darkness in ways human eyes simply were not. A leopard's pupils can dilate to collect light at a level that makes our night vision look almost useless by comparison. They could see. We could not. And here's what researchers studying early human behavior have found: the biggest predator threat to our ancestors wasn't daytime confrontation. It was nocturnal ambush. The kills happened at night, near shelters, near sleeping groups, in the darkness where nothing could be seen coming. So what did early humans do? They huddled. Tightly. Around anything that gave off light or heat. Fire became the first wall humanity ever built. Not stone, not wood, not earth, fire. A barrier of light between the living and whatever moved beyond it. But here's the detail that stops most people cold when they hear it. We don't actually know with certainty when humans first controlled fire. The evidence suggests somewhere between 400,000 and 1 million years ago. And there's something haunting about that number, because it means that for potentially hundreds of thousands of years before that, there was nothing. No fire. No light. No protection. Just the night. Just the dark. Just the sounds. Imagine that. Close your eyes for a second and actually imagine it. No flame. No light source of any kind. Total blackness from the moment the sun set until it rose again. That is between 8 and 14 hours of complete, impenetrable dark, every single night of your entire life. What does that do to a mind? What does that do to a species? As it turns out, everything. Here's something modern psychology has confirmed that ancient humans discovered through sheer survival: darkness does something specific to the human brain. It doesn't just limit vision. It changes cognition. When light disappears, the amygdala, the brain's fear processing center, becomes hyperactive. Threat detection spikes. Sounds that were ordinary moments ago suddenly feel significant. That branch snapping. That rustle in the undergrowth. The mind starts filling in what the eyes cannot see, and it almost never fills it in with something safe. Researchers call this threat amplification in low-light environments. Ancient humans didn't call it anything. They just knew that when the dark came, something came with it. Something that felt like dread, and that dread, that biological alarm system, kept them alive. But here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Because that survival mechanism didn't stay a survival mechanism. Over thousands of years, it became something else entirely. It became the foundation of human spirituality. Think about every major religion and mythology you've ever encountered. Now ask yourself, where do the gods live? Where do the demons come from? Where is the afterlife? Where does evil dwell? The dark. Every time. Across every culture, on every continent, through every era of human history, without exception, the forces that humans feared, worshipped, and tried to understand were always associated with darkness. This is not coincidence. This is biology becoming theology. And the story of how that happened is stranger and more powerful than almost anything you've learned in school. Fire changes everything. But not immediately, and not cleanly. And the truth of how it changed human civilization is something historians are still piecing together. The first controlled fires weren't bonfires. They weren't campfires in the cheerful sense we imagine. They were small, precarious, desperately maintained. Keeping a fire alive required constant attention, specific knowledge, and dry material that wasn't always available. And in many climates it rained constantly, fire died. And with it, the light died. But something profound happened around those early flames. Something that changed the trajectory of the entire human species. People started talking, not just communicating, talking. For hours. Into the night. Researchers studying the few hunter-gatherer societies that maintained traditional lifestyles into the modern era found something extraordinary. Their daytime conversations were almost entirely practical. Task-based. Where to hunt. What to gather. How to prepare. But nighttime conversations, firelight conversations, were radically different. Longer. More abstract. Full of stories, spiritual reflection, emotion, and social bonding. Fire didn't just hold back the predators. It created the first social space in human history. The first living room. The first theater. The first church. Around that flickering light, the first stories were told. And crucially, the first stories about darkness were told. About what lived beyond the edge of the firelight. About what waited in the void when flames went out. And here is the detail that should genuinely unsettle you. Those stories were not fiction. They were warnings. Detailed, inherited, generational knowledge about the real dangers that existed in the dark. Every monster in every mythology has a biological ancestor. Something real, something lethal, something that killed people in the night. The darkness wasn't just a setting. It was the original villain of the human story. As humanity slowly spread across the earth, migrating into colder climates, building more complex societies, developing agriculture and permanent settlements, the relationship with darkness became more sophisticated. And more desperate. Because here's something almost never talked about in mainstream history. For most of human civilization, the night was effectively a second world. A parallel reality with completely different rules. During the day, you worked your land, traded in markets, traveled roads, enforced laws. Society functioned. The apparatus of civilization, courts, commerce, community, all operated in daylight. But when the sun went down, that world closed. Medieval European cities, for example, imposed strict curfew laws. The word curfew itself comes from the French couvre-feu, meaning cover the fire. It was a literal instruction: when the bell rings at dusk, cover your hearth, stay inside, do not be found on the streets after dark. Why? Because the night belonged to different rules. To different people. To different things, if you believed the stories, and almost everyone did. Think about what it meant to be outside after dark in a pre-modern city. No streetlights. Narrow lanes between buildings so tall they blocked even moonlight. A darkness so dense in the alleys that a person could be 3 feet in front of you and invisible. Criminals understood this better than anyone. The night was their operating environment, their cover, their weapon. Crime in pre-modern cities followed the sun with almost perfect correlation. As light went, violence rose. Not because people became more evil at night, but because the darkness was a tool. It removed the consequences. It erased witnesses. It made accountability disappear. Night watchmen, some of the most unglamorous and forgotten figures in history, were essentially human lanterns. Their primary job was not to fight crime but to carry light. To break the darkness into manageable pieces. To give the honest people enough visibility to get home safely. And here's the haunting part: it often wasn't enough. But it wasn't only criminals that lurked in the darkness. The human mind, brilliant and terrified in equal measure, populated the night with something far older and far more powerful. Monsters. Every culture in human history, every single one, developed nocturnal monster mythology. Night demons. Shadow spirits. Creatures that specifically, exclusively operated after dark. The timing was never random. These weren't beings that happened to prefer evenings. The darkness was their essential condition. Without it, they had no power. In it, they were unstoppable. The ancient Mesopotamians believed in the Lilitu, night spirits that preyed on sleeping humans. The Greek Lamia prowled after sunset to steal children. Norse mythology gave us Draugr, undead creatures that emerged when the sun vanished. Across sub-Saharan Africa, across Southeast Asia, across the indigenous traditions of the Americas, night monsters. Always. Everywhere. Psychologists studying these mythologies have noted something remarkable. The behavioral rules attached to surviving these creatures are almost universally practical. Don't go out alone at night. Stay near fire and light. Travel in groups after dark. Don't sleep exposed. Lock your doors at dusk. Strip away the supernatural, and you have a comprehensive safety manual for living in a world where real predators, human and animal, were most dangerous after dark. The monsters weren't just stories. They were the most effective public safety campaign in human history. But there was something else the darkness produced. Something that went deeper than fear of physical harm. Something that touched the very edge of what it means to be human. The oldest religious texts on earth share one overwhelming preoccupation: the battle between light and dark. Not as a metaphor. Not as a poetic device. As literal, cosmic, existential war. In ancient Egypt, every single night was understood as a crisis. When Ra, the sun god, disappeared below the horizon, he was believed to be traveling through the Duat, the underworld, fighting his way through 12 hours of darkness populated by chaos, demons, and the great serpent Apophis, the embodiment of darkness itself, who tried to consume him before dawn. Every morning the sun rose was not taken for granted. Every morning was a victory. A cosmic battle won one more time. Think about what that belief does to a population. Every night, you go to sleep uncertain whether the sun will return. The priests of Ra conducted elaborate rituals, hymns, prayers, symbolic actions, specifically designed to help the sun fight its way back. Every person's faith, their spiritual energy, was pointed at defeating darkness. Is it possible to overstate how profoundly this shaped a civilization? An entire religious infrastructure, an entire system of temples and priesthoods and royal mythology, built fundamentally on the terror of darkness returning and never leaving? And Egypt wasn't unique. In ancient Persia, Zoroastrianism defined the entire cosmic order as a battle between Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Light, and Engra Mainyu, the Lord of Darkness. This wasn't one story among many. This was the foundation of reality. Good was light. Evil was dark. The history of the universe was their war. You find echoes of this in Judaism, in early Christianity, in Islam, in Hinduism. The association of the divine with light and the malevolent with darkness runs so deeply through human religious thought that it is almost impossible to find a tradition where it isn't central. Here's the question that should linger with you. Did religion create the fear of darkness, or did the fear of darkness create religion? Now, let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed in polite historical circles. Darkness was, for most of human history, one of the primary engines of social control. Power and light were inseparable. Always. Across every civilization. In ancient Rome, only the wealthy could afford enough oil lamps to meaningfully illuminate their homes at night. Senators and emperors held evening banquets by lamplight, a deliberate, visible display of power. The ability to push back the darkness was, quite literally, a luxury of dominance. The poor lived in darkness. Their homes, after sundown, were practically lightless. Their streets were lightless. Their lives after sunset were radically constrained in ways that the wealthy simply did not experience. This created a psychological division that ran as deep as any law or social structure. Those with power lived in light. Those without it lived in the dark. The very experience of reality, the ability to read, to work, to socialize, to move freely, was stratified by wealth and access to illumination. Think about what this meant for literacy, for education, for intellectual development. Books existed for centuries before widespread literacy, partly because reading after dark required light, and light cost money. The Library of Alexandria closed at sunset. Medieval monks, some of the most literate people in Europe, carefully rationed their candles because wax was expensive, and even they worked in conditions that would today be considered dangerously dim. How many ideas were never thought of because the thinker ran out of light? How many books were never written because ink and candle couldn't coexist with poverty? Darkness didn't just shape human fear. It shaped human knowledge. It literally determined who was allowed to think. And then, slowly, painstakingly, humanity started fighting back. The history of artificial light is, at its heart, a story of human desperation meeting human ingenuity. The earliest lamps discovered by archaeologists date back roughly 70,000 years. They were stone bowls, sometimes shells, filled with animal fat, with a moss or plant fiber wick. Small, smoky, fragile, and producing a light so faint by modern standards that it would barely qualify as a nightlight. But in absolute darkness, that tiny flame was extraordinary. It was a declaration of war against the night. Ancient Egypt developed lamps extensively. The Greeks refined them. The Romans mass-produced clay oil lamps on an industrial scale. Thousands have been recovered from archaeological sites, which tells us something remarkable. The demand for artificial light in the ancient world was enormous. People wanted out of the dark badly enough to create one of the first consumer product industries in history. But there was a problem that persisted for thousands of years. Oil, tallow, beeswax, all the fuels that powered ancient lighting, were expensive, scarce, and finite. A single candle in medieval Europe could cost the equivalent of several hours of a laborer's wages. A household that kept lights burning all evening was, by the standards of the time, wealthy. The majority of people, the vast, silent majority of human history, lived by a brutal calculation every evening. What do I absolutely need to do that requires light, and how little fuel can I use doing it? Reading was a luxury. Working after dark was a financial decision. Socializing in the evening meant gathering in the same room, around the same single flame, because you couldn't afford to light two. And even then, even with these carefully guarded, incredibly expensive flames, the darkness was never fully beaten back. It was delayed, managed, negotiated with. The truly transformative moment, the event that would finally, permanently change humanity's relationship with darkness, was still centuries away. The 18th century brought the first real escalation in humanity's war against the night. Whale oil became the premium fuel of lighting, and with it came an entire industrial ecosystem, whaling fleets, oil refineries, specialized lamp designs. For the first time in history, light was becoming something approaching abundant, at least for those with money. The streets of London, Paris, and other major European cities began to flicker with gas lamps in the early 19th century. And the effect on human civilization was immediate and visible. Crime patterns changed. Cities that introduced systematic street lighting saw measurable reductions in certain nighttime crimes within years. Not because the criminals disappeared, but because the darkness, their operating environment, their most powerful tool, was being taken away. Social patterns changed. Cafes, theaters, and social clubs extended their hours. The evening became a social space that it had never truly been before. For the first time in human history, large numbers of ordinary people were choosing to be outside after dark. Not because they had to, not in fear, but for pleasure. Sleep patterns changed. Studies of pre-industrial sleep records and diaries reveal that humans historically slept in two distinct phases: a first sleep of several hours after dusk, a period of wakefulness in the middle of the night for reflection, prayer, or intimacy, and then a second sleep until dawn. The introduction of artificial light that was bright enough to suppress melatonin production gradually, and quite literally, compressed this into the single sleep block that modern humans experience. The night was being civilized, colonized, converted. But the defining moment, the one that would make everything before it look primitive, hadn't happened yet. Menlo Park, New Jersey. Thomas Edison's laboratory successfully demonstrates a practical incandescent light bulb, one that can burn for hours, that is safe to use indoors, that can be replicated and mass-produced. Within 2 decades, electric light was spreading through American and European cities at a speed that genuinely shocked contemporary observers. It felt, and this is not hyperbole, like a second sun had been invented. The psychological impact of widespread electric light on human populations has been described by historians as one of the most transformative psychological events in recorded history. Almost overnight, the ancient equation was broken. The night was no longer inherently dangerous. The dark was no longer the default condition of after-sunset existence. People worked later. Factories ran night shifts. Stores stayed open after dark. The entire temporal structure of human civilization, the deep, ancient rhythm of light equals activity and dark equals cessation, began to dissolve. But here is where the story takes a turn that nobody in 1879 could have anticipated. Because something was lost. The same light that freed humanity from ancient terror also severed a connection that had shaped human consciousness for 300,000 years. A connection to darkness, to stillness, to the contemplative inner life that only emerges when the world goes quiet and black. For most of human history, every single person alive spent a significant portion of every single night in genuine darkness. And in that darkness, in those quiet, lightless hours, humans thought. They reflected. They dreamed while awake. They processed the events of their day without distraction. The darkness forced a kind of internal reckoning that had shaped human philosophy, spirituality, and psychology across all of recorded thought. Ancient observers wrote about the night with a reverence that modern people rarely feel. Aristotle did his deepest thinking in the pre-dawn dark. Medieval mystics described spiritual experiences that could only occur in complete blackness. Poets and philosophers across centuries wrote about the productive, generative, strange clarity that comes only in genuine darkness. We don't have that anymore. Not really. The last truly dark corner of the modern world is increasingly hard to find. Light pollution now covers virtually the entire sky over developed nations. 80% of the global population lives under skies so contaminated with artificial light that they have never, in their lives, seen the Milky Way as pre-industrial humans saw it every single night, a blazing river of light so dense it cast shadows. So here we arrive at the end of this story. And I want to be honest with you about something. Humanity won. There's no question about that. The war against the night is essentially over, and the outcome is everything our ancestors prayed for in every firelit prayer, in every oil lamp left burning, in every candle purchased at enormous expense. The thing they wanted, light, permanent and reliable and abundant, we have. But winning a war changes the winner. And the question worth sitting with, the one that doesn't have a comfortable answer, is what we left behind in the darkness when we conquered it. For 300,000 years, the night was a space that humanity shared with fear, wonder, and mystery, and the ineffable. The darkness that terrified our ancestors also humbled them. It reminded them, every single evening without exception, that they were small. That the world was vast and largely unknown. That the universe extended outward in every direction into an incomprehensible dark that no human light could touch. The stars, those ancient navigators, calendar makers, and gods, were visible to every human who ever lived, until about a century ago. They were a nightly reminder of scale. Of mystery. Of how much remained unexplained and perhaps unexplainable. Our ancestors built Stonehenge, the pyramids, and Angkor Wat partly as responses to what they saw in the night sky, monuments to mystery, to things larger than human understanding. They developed mathematics to track celestial movements visible only at night. They invented navigation, mythology, theology, and philosophy partly in response to what the darkness showed them. What are we building in response to? We've replaced the ancient darkness with a warm, orange glow that follows us everywhere. We've eliminated the void, and with it, perhaps, some capacity for the particular. Kind of awe that only total darkness can produce. I'm not suggesting we turn the lights off. I'm not suggesting we return to a world where leopards wait in the dark and fire is the only barrier between life and death. Progress is real, and it matters, and the reduction of suffering that came with reliable light is not something to romanticize away. But I am suggesting this, that the darkness was not only an enemy. That it was also a teacher. That the fear it produced was not only destructive, but generative, the source of humanity's deepest stories, most enduring religions, greatest philosophical questions, and most persistent sense of wonder. The next time you're somewhere truly dark, genuinely, completely dark, I want you to resist the urge to reach for your phone. Just sit with it. Feel the ancient anxiety rise in your amygdala. Feel the 300,000-year-old voice that tells you something is out there. Feel the strange, uncomfortable, irreplaceable sensation of being small in a universe that does not illuminate itself for your comfort. That feeling? That is the oldest thing about you. And somewhere in it, if you're quiet enough, you might hear the faintest echo of every human being who ever sat around a fire, stared into the dark beyond the flames, and asked the question that started all of human civilization. What is out there? We're still asking. We're still looking. We're still, in the deepest sense, afraid of the dark. And maybe that fear, that ancient, inherited, biological, unstoppable fear, is not a weakness to be cured. Maybe it's the thing that made us. This has been Origin Lore. If this documentary made you think, even for a moment, about something you've never questioned before, that's exactly what we're here for.